Hello, everybody, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates. On a very special afternoon, we normally do these interviews on Monday afternoons at 5 p.m., but there's a reason why we're doing today at 1:30, and I'll tell you all about that in a minute. I'd like to, first of all, thank Casting New Lives and Nightlife Exchange for presenting this show and allowing me to come to all of you each day. I know that there may be other platforms that you may be watching on. You may be watching through a watch party, or you may be watching through YouTube. But if you want your comments to be seen by both Marta and myself, Marta Sanders, that is, please go to Richard Skipper Celebrates on Facebook, and we will be able to see your comments. Now, I am waiting for Marta to arrive here. I am very, very excited about the fact that she's doing this. A few weeks ago, when this pandemic first began, I was supposed to interview Marta, and we had a lot of problems with getting her onto the platform. I don't know if she can hear me wherever she is, but somehow she's left the building, and I need her to come back. So I'm just going to keep talking until she does come back. There she is. But what happened was that Marta and I were supposed to do this interview. I was using another streaming service, and we had all kinds of issues. After trying a couple of hours and various times, I was never able to get Marta onto the program. So last week, Marta reached out to me, and she says, I would still love to do that interview if you were interested. And I said, pick a date and a time, and let's do it. And she did. And the date and time that she picked was today. And she also mentioned, as I always do with all of these interviews, I always want to give back in some way. So I asked Marta if she had some recommendation for a favorite charity, and she mentioned the Bowery Mission, which we are raising money for today. Throughout the show, my dear friend Glenn Charlo will be posting the link for the Bowery Mission. When the link pops up, if you don't mind and if you can, please make a donation to the Bowery Mission. And we will be talking about them a little bit later in the program about why she chose this organization and what they do. But first and foremost, here is my dear friend, Marta Sanders. Hello, Marta.
Hi, Richard. Such a lovely time. Finally, we got it together.
I know, we got it together, and I see the shadow lurking around you. That must be your handsome husband, Gordon.
Yeah, lurking is the right. Yeah, it's all about lurking. Like Danny's lurking through your house, or you're lurking. It's just all perspective.
It's all perspective. Now, before we start, I want to ask, how are you doing, by the way, in the middle of this crazy world we're living in right now?
You know what? We're hanging in there. So grateful for so many things. And I think that's what we keep, all of us, we just are counting blessings, we just go, it could be so much worse. Mm-hmm. I find that periodically that gets too much, the news, the whatever. I took a break from the phone yesterday. I just, I feel myself sometimes like everybody. I'm on this roller coaster of emotions. I don't know why. I kind of am just unsettled is the word, because we're unsettled, and the news outside is so oppressive, and how the person in charge is dealing with it and his lackeys, and this is a big time for everybody. But we have a roof over our heads, we have our health. We live in a little bubble where we are here on the Upper West Side. We've got a supermarket a block away. It's a little more expensive, but it's fine. And we have the walk by the Hudson River right here. So I'm out every morning, and I'm breathing and stretching and doing what I've always done, and watching the ducks and the geese, and going very rarely into the center where there's any kind of activity. I'm learning, like everybody, about the mask. I try to find times that I can go that I don't have to have it on my face at all times, where I'm walking on the other side of the street, so nobody's walking that side of the street. I don't go down by the river on the weekends. I have certain quiet benches I can go to, take it off, that kind of thing. Really, just like everybody, up in limbo, but we're well. We're well.
Now, the last time that you and I physically saw each other was on March 8th at Birdland, where you were appearing with our dear, dear, dear friend, Leanne Borghesi, in ShowBroads.
Right.
Well, that was really, you know, just before everything crumbled. Who would have thought? I remember that night, Mark Nadler at the show, and I went up to hug him, and he went, "No, no, don't touch me, don't touch me," because he had just his show in London had just canceled. If I'm not mistaken, I think you and Leanne were planning on going to London. Danny and I.
But Danny, we were going to San Francisco. We were going to play Feinstein's at the Nico. That never happened. But yeah, I know you and Danny were going to London.
We were going to go to London in August. Our dear friend Kathleen Hassett-Hochberg, who's watching, said she was sitting with me, which is true. We were there enjoying this incredible show, which we're going to get to as well. A lot of things you have to hang on, folks, because we're going to keep you on the precipice throughout the show. But you know, what was your schedule like prior to, let's say, March 12th? When all the theaters in New York shut down?
Well, we were busy reworking the show. We'd done the show before, and this was our second time out with it. And we spent, I don't know, 20 hours, a long time going back over it. We kept reimagining it, trying to grow the show. Because the first time there's some, you know, it's like any show, and this is a big one. This had script, and there were two of us, and sight gags, and all kinds of, and boas and feathers, and things that had to be worked into it. And you had to remember along with the songs and everything. So I realized that we were so intense in that. Can you see me, Richard?
I can see you perfectly. You look great.
Good, because I'm looking at a black screen now, but I'm not going to try to change it because I don't want to.
We can see you. Can you see me?
No. No, it doesn't matter. But you know what? I know what you look like, and I'll remember. I put it in my memory. I'm an actor.
That's good. Okay.
It doesn't matter. It's done. So anyway, we were busy doing that. And what I do remember was there were a couple of people that had called right before the show and decided they couldn't come to the show with the virus. I don't remember that I was really that aware of it. We were so intense in getting this show back up and everything that I wasn't thinking about the rest of the world. So I remember kind of being surprised, kind of what's happening. So we busy with the show, which normally I'd be doing that. They were doing various concerts and things, and getting ready to take it on the road.
And, you know, in the midst of all this, happy birthday. You had a birthday.
I did the following weekend.
The following weekend. And I know that a surprise party was being planned for you. We were all waiting in the wings, but we were also hearing everything on the news. And that was when we first heard that new word in our life, social distancing. Although I prefer physical distancing instead of social distancing. But, you know, how is the rest of your family dealing with this?
You know, depending on where people live, depending on what their circumstances are. One of our daughters is back living with us for a while, so she's same situation we are. The other daughter uses her fire escape. As I know some people are doing. Mary Sue Daniels has put pictures up where she's got her pillow and stuff on the fire escape. She can sit out there. Our daughter's doing that, a little home away from home. She adopted a dog like a lot of people are doing. And this is she's a first-time dog owner. And this has been a really great experience, because being alone, which we're not alone here, she's alone. And for all the people that are alone, as she said, she doesn't mind being alone, but she doesn't even have the option to say, let me go out and hang with some people at the bar or whatever. So she's dealing with that. She's okay. And the dog has helped a lot. And I think once I realized what was going on, which I learned in a family Zoom meeting, I also was more proactive in reaching out. So, and my brothers, everybody's, knock on wood, we're okay.
Thank God. Now, do you have any type of structure or routine that you've built into your life since this is all happening?
Well, as I said, I've always done my walk by the water in the morning, and that's my time to by the Hudson River. And that's my time to clear my head and to do my breathing exercises and my strength training. And that gives me great power in the morning. Normally, I would be out running around like everybody. So I'm finding that my focus is more, I'm doing things that I remember I did when the kids were at home. I have 2 daughters, and born and raised on the Upper West Side here, and they were 20 months apart. And there were years there where they would go to school and I would have a break. But there were times when I had the break that what I did was I would watch entertainers, particularly Spanish, some Portuguese, fado, but especially Spanish, from all over South America, because that was my training ground.
Your first album, your first CD was all
my first CD was in Spanish. And so I found myself doing that again and finding other artists that I didn't know about. And that for some reason gives me great joy. It's a real touchstone for me. For the people that have seen me, there's a high drama that goes. I remember my aunt, my father's sister, who was from Texas. She traveled the world, but when she went to Argentina, where my mother was from, she came back and she said, now I understand why you are the singer that you are. So my influence has been these over-the-top, larger-than-life singers, which would be comparable to like a Shirley Bassey type thing, but she's not Latin, but it's that kind of thing. And that's what I watched. That's what inspired me.
And that is your style. That's what you do.
Yeah, it is what I do. And it's where I feel comfortable. And is it overly dramatic for some? Maybe. But it's my voice. As we all know, as we communicate with our voices, however we communicate, we tap into the spirit within us that tells the story. And I speak with my hands. I'm over the top. I'm serious as a heart attack.
I don't know what that means.
Oh my God. So I do a lot of that. I listen to TED Talks. I love TED Talks. TED Talks, The Moth. I love those. Yeah.
Now, Katie McGrath is here, and she said that she would love to take Latin lessons from you. Have you thought about teaching?
Teach Latin lesson? What, Spanish lessons? Spanish lessons.
Yes.
No, I haven't taught it. No, I wouldn't teach Spanish.
Okay.
No, I would. I can speak it, but no. I could. No, but thank you, Katie. That's a lovely thought.
Now, you were born.
Hola, ¿cómo estás, Katie?
You were born in Austin, Texas. Do you still have family there?
Not anymore. My older brother, I'm the second of 5. And my older brother went to law school in Austin, and he stayed there and with his wife and 3 children, and his whole adult life was there. At the end, he moved out to Portland, Oregon. But he was a lawyer, and so I would go down to Austin because of that. My dad was from Fort Worth. So I have the Texas, and I was born in Austin, but left when I was 4. So my memories of Austin were just when I would visit Lynn, my older brother.
Now, I misunderstood Katie. She's not asking for you to teach her to speak Spanish. She would like you to teach her Latin flair lessons.
Latin flair. I can do that. Katie, you and I. Well, yeah, we can do that, Katie.
Okay. And Leanne Borghesi has joined us, so she's saying hello. Now, Austin, and I don't know if this is something that always was in place or if it's just in recent years, but they have a very vibrant and thriving art scene.
Yes.
Was that going on at any time when you were there?
Not to my knowledge. I wasn't there. When I was there, it was really family visit type things. I'm trying to think. I mean, my brother was involved with the art scene there, but no, it wasn't. I mean, I visited Austin, 3 times. So
your father was a teacher. Am I correct?
My father was an editor. He was a journalist. He was when we were in Bogota, Colombia, he did various jobs. So it was all initially it was with the American Friends Service Committee, which is a Quaker organization out of Philadelphia. He became a Quaker in college. And so he founded the American Friends Service Committee, which is a Quaker organization that would go into war-torn countries after the war and then help the people that were there. And so he was in that. He was in, it was songbooks and things, which he was always involved in because he had, oh God, it's so complex. But anyway, he also spoke Spanish.
I absolutely
he would put these small songbooks together that were distributed to Girl Scouts and group sings. My father was a square dance caller and a folk dance leader. Mm-hmm. And it was how he was in Philadelphia working for the American Friends Service Committee, and he met my mother. They said, well, if you're doing he was in charge of the entertainment for an international group of students. And they said, well, you've got to get this Phyllis Aiden. She does stories, nursery rhymes in Spanish, which is a very typical thing of Argentine. Long story, she did it. They fell in love, boom, engaged. 3 days later, she got the ring in the mail. And I was the second of 5 kids. So there was that. But we moved. There was a series of events. So Austin, Texas, I was there till I was 4. Then we moved outside of Philadelphia. And we were there for 5 years. And then we moved to 3 places in Ohio. He was director of Caramoo House in Cleveland, Ohio, which was an entertainment complex. There were 3 theaters. There was all kinds of things, all having to do with theater, music, and not that. Then we moved, and there were a couple of other things, not to worry. And then we moved to South America, Bogota, Colombia, where he was in charge of the Peace Corps.
Wow.
In Colombia. So that's where I went to high school at Colegio Nueva Granada, which is up on the mountain. And that's where I graduated. And that was where I met my first voice teacher. She was an American, very similar to the kind of person that I am. And then we all took a year off between high school and college. My mother was born and raised in Argentina, outside of Buenos Aires. My grandparents were Methodist missionaries. Oh my God, there's a lot of religion going on here. And they founded my grandfather founded a very fine boarding school, Colegio Ward, which is outside of Buenos Aires, about 50 minutes, like a suburb. And she was born and raised there, the oldest of 5 kids. So she was completely bilingual. We all took a year off, a gap year. We didn't call it that, but we took a gap year. So after I graduated high school in Bogota, I went to Argentina. And I was at the school and I helped in the language lab making tapes. And I would go on the train twice a week for my voice lessons in Buenos Aires with Carmen Favre. And I remember going from the train to her apartment, very European in style. Buenos Aires is like the Paris of South America, and very much that style, European, with the big high windows and the big shutters that would open. And I would go and studied with Carmen Favre. And then we moved back. My dad was director of the Council for the Arts of Westchester County. And so I lived with them for about 6 months and then came into the city, the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and took off. But that was the initial influence. So the Spanish, singing in Spanish, having it around me was just very much a part of my life. And clearly, I have a theory that where you go to high school is what is predominant in your life in terms of, I don't know. It's like in your gut. That's all I can say, because all the traveling we did, all the moving we did, I had this tie, this connection with Latin America that I've pursued and continued in my work.
Now, I want to ask you, did you ever see Bibi Ferreira perform live?
Who?
Bibi Ferreira.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, she did the Brazilian Hello Dolly and the Brazilian My Fair Lady. She did all of those musicals and everything.
But was she Brazilian?
She was Brazilian.
That's probably why. Okay. If she'd been the Spanish one, I probably would have. Yeah.
Now, you said you grew up watching these entertainers on TV, I'm assuming. Or did you see them live? Or what was your exposure?
Both. I I mean, I'm trying to think of the TV. We had TV in the States. I don't even remember having TV in South America.
Well, what was your first exposure? Was there a particular moment in your life where you said, this is what I have to do with my life?
Well, coming from a very musical family, we all sang together. We would hold hands around the table at Grace. We would sing in 5 languages. We would sing rounds. My mother was a singer. Mm-hmm. She was a choral conductor. My aunt, her sister, was a nightclub singer. Although I didn't watch her do her thing, I saw a little bit of that. But I always was very influenced by Aunt Mita. Mm-hmm. Very beautiful and a wonderful singer. But we always had music around us. So I would listen to my mother because she would sing in Spanish. She would always relate to it. So there was the presence that was there. I knew there was a specific moment. Well, there were 2 moments. One, when I was going down to South America, we went down on a ship. My mother said, let's sail down when we were moving down. And I remember being on board the ship going, I don't know what my life is, but I want to travel. And then that grew as I was thinking about what I wanted to do. First, I wanted to be a doctor. Then I found out how long it was going to take to study. I went, all right, maybe not so much. and then I thought maybe a nurse. And my voice teacher said in Bogota, she said, what are you going to do for college? I thought I'd be a nurse. And she laughed so hard, she fell off the chair. I said, what are you laughing about? They need good nurses. She said, what about your singing? And I go, I could do that on the side. So that was kind of how I was feeling about that because I didn't know. I remember as living overseas, and when I came back and did start to think, what do I want to do? That started me thinking, and I've been taking voice lessons. I thought I would like to travel, and if I can do it as a singer, that's what I'd like to do. That's what I want in my life. When I came to New York City and I graduated from the American Musical and Dramatic Academy and my great voice teacher, Paul Gavert, it was during those early times I was dating a guy. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into it. I was hired to go and sing in Santo Domingo. And I got into the hotel and I got into my room. And I remember as if it was yesterday, and I thought, and this is what I want. This is my life, to be a singer traveling. So
now, is that where you were when the opportunity came for you to record your first CD or your first album? It was an album then.
No, that didn't come till later. I had always believed that because I'm so larger than life, that I wasn't the best one for recording. I didn't listen to I just felt that wasn't what I felt. I felt if I was going to record, that the best recording for me would be in Spanish, because that album is boleros, which are the love songs, the very, very famous, whatever, Bésame Mucho, and all of those that everybody knows that, oh, I love that song. And they play them, orchestras play them, and people dance or skate. That music, very traditional. And so I just thought, well, if I do a CD, it will be in Spanish. And I did.
And at what point in your career did that happen? Were you already doing stage work, or?
Yes, I was already. Yes, I was already had kids. So I got married in '81, and the following year we had our first child. So it was in the '80s. That's all I remember. You know what? It's a mush. It's all a mush. The second kid came 20 months later. Forgot here in the apartment where we are, the Upper West Side. But it's a mush. Anybody that's had kids and small kids, you know, it's a mush. So I look back and I go, when did that happen? I don't know. In that area.
And did you have, I mean, most of us who go through whatever phase we go through have that musical theater phase that we go through. Now, I know, of course, that you were in the original. A lot of people may or may not know this. The original Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Was that your first job on Broadway? Was that your first equity card? How did that all come about?
So I got my equity card right out of AMDA. I got into Man of La Mancha, summer stock, Stephen Slane. and it was up on the Cape, and it was Lawrence Guittard and Marilyn Child who did it on Broadway. And I got into that company. And the theater that I did at the beginning, the truth of it was because I could sing a low F. So I was the housekeeper and the innkeeper's wife in Man of La Mancha. I was probably the youngest member of the cast, playing like the oldest characters, because I had this low F. Then I did another summer stock thing where it was three shows, and that was out in Indianapolis. But it was Man of La Mancha where I got my equity card. And then I'm auditioning for shows, and I had people applaud me, but they didn't know what to do with me. My voice teacher, Paul Gabbard, had said when I first went in, he said, your big problem, well, several problems, but the big problem, all right, the second problem was I sang too loud. So I had to learn how to hit the back wall instead of a little over the top. Let's just call it as it is. But he said, you're going to grow into your voice. And he was right. He said, you've got this huge instrument, and they're not quite, but for a young woman, you're not the ingenue role. You're not the little, so anyway, I got a lot of response. People would applaud and, oh, they're great. You'll do great. Come back, but we don't know what to do with you. But you're the one with the high C. I was the one that people hated. I'd clear my throat and I'd go out and sing an audition, first thing in the morning, sign up, go back, sing, hit the high C, go back to bed.
Did you enjoy that process of auditioning, or was it something that you just accepted as part of the game, or where did you fit in with that? Did I enjoy it?
Yeah, I guess. It was what we were doing. We were all struggling together. I came to the city in 1969, and most of the time lived on the Upper West Side. And we were all theater kids. We were waiters. We were my friends. I had my two roommates, Bobby and Arthur, and they were both singers and dancers. And at that time, they were doing one show after another. Hello, Dolly. Mame, the usual suspects all around. I can't tell you how many productions I saw of those with my roommates in them. And it was all theater, and we were all dreamers, and we were young, and we were kids, and it didn't matter. We're struggling together. All I remember about all those days, because I've heard about how during that time it was dangerous. I don't remember that. I don't remember anything. All I remember is how much we laughed. All right, we were stoned a lot of the time too, but come on.
But you still remember it. That's a good thing.
If you remember the 70s, you weren't here.
That's right.
We laughed and laughed and laughed, and I had started singing in cabarets because I had gotten a job on West 72nd Street. Jeff Harner worked there as well, not at the same time. But at Mrs. J's Sacred Cow.
Oh my God!
I was one of the cowbells. Please. And we were supposed to look like we were in rehearsal, so we wore leotard and tights. Nothing, just leotard and tights. So I put the pen in my bust, and I put the big check under my back there between the leotard and the tights, right? And then I'd get up and I'd sing. And one night, every once in a while, somebody would come in, we'd sing together. It was nice. Some guy came in Spanish, and we sang in Spanish. He was singing at Astis. He said, "Oh, this is great." He said, "Come with me to Astis." So I sang with him at Astis. Do you remember Astis?
I do.
That was on 13th Street.
I haven't thought about that place in years.
I know. That was all opera, and that I did musical comedy stuff at that point. But although I'd studied opera, but that's not what I did. And so then somebody heard me, and it was the Tijuana Cat. Oh, he sang at the Tijuana Cat. Come with me to the Tijuana Cat, which was this little tiny club right across the street from Dotel Mama's on 46th Street. And it's now a Japanese restaurant.
Danny's Grand Sea Palace?
Yeah, this before Danny's.
Okay.
This before Danny's. And it was the most, I went in with him and I just sang with him, and they said, "Oh, come and do a show." And I had been working on a show with a friend who was a piano player, Bobby Shepard. And I had another friend, Freddie Diaz, who we were all creative, just oozing with creativity. So he was my director. So we'd been working on something. Well, now we had a date. So we said, okay, we got to do it. And that became began the cabaret career. I remember being very clear that I needed to sing because I wanted to sing so I could develop my own style. And I couldn't develop my own style unless I was just singing. And I was not being given the opportunity in theater. It was not coming fast and furious. And I thought, but I got to sing here. I can't just be waiting for these things. So that was how cabaret came into my life. And I did all the little rooms. I was Ronnie's Roost and Bush's of Central Park West.
Oh my God, I performed.
Oh my God! Oh, I found the pamphlet the other day. My whatchamacallit, portfolio that we used to carry around.
Yes.
With all the cards, all the things, and it was like a $5 cover, $5 minimum. And you just bounce around. I remember going into one club, and because at the same time was Laurie Beachman.
Wow.
This was before she was on Broadway. And so we were just out there. I remember when Karen Mason came into town with Brian Lazarus. That was a little bit later. Anyway, so I just did this whole circuit, and that was a whole community. And we just played. We just laughed and loved and played. One of the people, so I was singing waitress, Mrs. J, Sacred Cow. One of the other waitresses was very close to a very close friend of Carol Hall, who wrote Whorehouse. And she would sing from her songbook, Jenny Rebecca and all that. And I loved Carol Hall's music.
Oh, me too.
One night she said, we're going to go see Carol Hall. She's going to perform at the Improv. You want to come? I said, sure. And I went in and I saw her, loved her. We met. I said, I'm thinking of putting Jenny Rebecca in my act. And that was how we met. Well, she came and she became a regular in my shows. I got a call from her at one point, and she said, I'm working on this show, new musical, and it's at the Actors Studio. And I have a bunch of actors here, but I need somebody to come and sing it so I can hear the music sung. Would you come in? And I went, yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, what? Come on. So I showed up, and the party continued. What was funny about Whorehouse was that Carlin Glynn, who was a wonderful actress, Pete Masterson's wife, and she played Mona. She played the lead, the head of the whorehouse. And the madam. Yes. The madam, thank you, the head mistress, the head of the whorehouse. I like that better, the head of the whorehouse.
The head of the whorehouse.
Right. And Carol would write a song, and she would give it to me. The problem was she wasn't a big singer. And here I am, this big singer. And so Carol would come in to hear the music sung. She would give me the song. I would sing it. And the next thing you know, they're yanking it out of my hand, giving it to somebody else, either to her or to one of the other girls, because the happy townsperson, which was all that I was at that point, shouldn't be blowing the roof off over the madam and the lead characters. We used to laugh about that. Well, I followed this thing all the way up to Broadway. When we had a workshop at the Actors Studio, then we went to the Showcase, and that was where Universal Pictures came into the Showcase, and that was where Tommy Tune joined the gang. And then we took it off Broadway. She'd written a song, a whole number called Ms. Bell and Her Sex Circus. And it was 2 blocks from the Capitol building. You can get anything you want. Here's all this nonsense about a whorehouse where they're paying taxes. They're supporting the Little League, because it was just a political thing. And that was the thing. And they hired a dance team to come and dance it. It was this big production. Tommy Tune never knew what to do with the number. That was the truth of it. I remember my job, and that was my Ms. Bell. I was Ms. Bell. And I stood at the top of the staircase, and I'm belting out this 2 blocks from the Capitol building. Very cool. And they had garbage cans around and street people. I don't know. The show is running 3 hours. And so off Broadway, we got the magical whoever, Tommy or whoever, would like to see you on stage, after the show. And there was the ghost light, and I was first there, and I knew that wasn't a good sign, because they were doing cuts regularly during that time. We would cut and then rehearse and then go on that night. And there we were. And when they called the dance team in, Cameron and Deborah, I knew what was going down. And that was when the number was cut. It was just, he just didn't know. It just didn't, it didn't work. So I stayed with the show, and I was one of the girls. I was, what is it? Lois. I always said Eloise. No,
Eloise.
I always said, no, I didn't say Eloise. I said, now I can't pronounce it. That's good, because Mark Nadler corrected me. He said, no, it's Lois. I was always pronouncing it wrong, but it didn't matter. Anyway. So I stayed with it, and then we went to Broadway. Oh, and off Broadway, I went on for Dolores Hall, who was the maid. And she sang 24 Hours of Lovin'. Right. Well, I was the only other person who could sing that. This is off Broadway. And so they brought me, I understudied her, went on for her 6 times off Broadway, but it didn't make sense, because the audience didn't know, why is the maid the white girl in this setting that was a very clear who was working and who, in Texas. We had our backstory, but whatever. It was fun. I did it, but I went to Broadway with the show, but then I wasn't understudying anybody. I still stayed with Dolores. We'd become very close friends. And so I was in her dressing room with her on Broadway. During the Broadway run, I thought, I got anxious. And having moved my whole life, there was for a long time, every 2 years would come by and my feet would get itchy. I'd go, I gotta do something. I'd get restless. And I just thought, I gotta sing. I got this running around. People said, how can you leave Broadway? I said, well, I'm gonna go in the dressing room and pack my stuff and leave. In my mind, it was very clear that I wanted to travel and sing. And over being on Broadway, I thought, in my naive mind, I thought, how can I tell somebody I'm a big star? Come and see me. I'm the 4th on the left in the yellow dress. That was my thinking. And I had auditioned for the cruise ships to go sing on the cruise ships, and I got the job. And I came in and I gave my notice like 2 months before. I was so excited. And I went off and I started singing on cruise ships. And then that parlayed into nightclub work in Central and South America. And I traveled and sang, and basically with my charts, people, and my my big boa bag. And I would go through these airports. Of course, there was no security. And I would just kind of flutter my eyes, go, oh, somebody help me. And they go, oh, can I help you, señorita? ¿Te puedo ayudar? Oh, I had bags of things. Would you carry this? And you carry this. I had the time of my life. I really did. It was the most extraordinary time. After my shows, often I'd stay there, change, and go back, and we would dance. And I would be singing with big Latin orchestras, and it was an extraordinary time. A million stories. All I remember in my life really is all the laughter and singing.
And speaking of laughter, around that same time in your life, somebody came that was your roommate was Houston Allred. Am I correct?
Yes.
How did that come about? Houston is such an important figure in my life. He was the one who got me up to sing the first time as Carol Channing. That was all Houston's doing, which I'll tell you another time. This is about you, not me.
I didn't realize it. Well, he and I had met through friends. I don't know. I mean, he was piano bars, and and I was
handsome man.
Oh, very handsome and so talented. And we had become friends. So I met him in the group, in those of us out there that were clubs and all of that. And I met him, and we'd become very good friends. And I would sing. And there was one time when he called me up. He was playing at some place on the East Side. I want to say the Townhouse, but I don't think it was. And he said, you have to come in. There is a waiter in here that looks and sounds just like you. And he was. And I went and I looked at this guy. It was me. And he sang just like me. We actually, so I remember one time watching him. He did a drag thing at one point, and I sat behind him and watched him transform into me.
Do you know
more makeup?
Do you remember his name?
I don't. And I don't remember his name. My big regret was that I never got a headshot of him, because it was so eerie, and his personality and his, anyway. And there was about 2 weeks there that he contemplated maybe going straight. You know, maybe I was the answer. And I would have helped. I mean, I loved him. He was such a lovely guy. The problem was it was just no connection other than we dearly loved each other as friends.
Well, it would be like making love with yourself.
Well, yes, and we never even got that far. We couldn't get that far. We'd get as far as he would get drunk. Well, we did a lot of that too. But drinking, smoking, whatever, to try and loosen up. You know, it was many clues, but we were, for that moment in time, we were very, very close. And Houston was there. So
now,
he and
if I'm not mistaken, one night you were singing and a bloke from London or England came in.
Right.
And that changed your life.
Right. So Houston had a piano bar that was in the old Edison Hotel. And it was in the coffee shop that was there that had been a Hungarian club at one for years and years, very ornate. And he had a little part of it, and then it expanded. He was very popular. And after the shows, all the Broadway people would come in. And I was right across the street at that point at the what's now the Richard Rodgers, where Hamilton's playing, and that's where Whorehouse was. It was the 46th Street Theater. And so I would go across the street and hang out there and get up and sing, and, you know, Houston. One night, Gordon was in there with some of the lads, and that was how we met. And that 2 years went by. I mean, we'd met, we, you know, really liked each other a whole lot, but then I went off to sing on the cruise ships. And it's a lovely story, but I'm not going to do it now. But there was a back and forth, long and short. 2 years went by, and then we reconnected, and we got engaged soon after and married even sooner after that, because I got pregnant a month after we got engaged. And that's it. And we're celebrating 39 years this year.
That's incredible.
39 years.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, I want to go back to, you know, because most of our listeners, well, you know, are from the cabaret community. Your earliest days in cabaret, which you described, there have been a lot of changes over the years. You know, looking back at that time and where you are now in your life and career and cabaret in general, what are the pluses and changes of the changes that you've seen happen over the years?
What are the pluses?
The pluses and the minuses.
The pluses. Well, so the big difference in the 70s, before Mac, before Mabel Mercer.
No, she's talking about the Manhattan Association of Cabarets and Clubs, right? Not a Mac computer.
No.
Okay.
Before the Bistro Awards, before the Cabaret Convention with the Mabel Mercer, so this was the Wild West. We knew the club owners, we knew the people. It was a word of mouth. You'd pick up a phone, you'd book yourself. Oh, you always had friends that wanted to be your manager too. That was all part of it.
Oh, that still goes on.
Does it? Yeah. So, well, I'm so far over that, but I mean, that was all part of the, look, I can I can manage you. Anyway, there was the Wild West. So what I remember is there was a tremendous freedom, because I know that the cabaret community came together, Manhattan Association, to give it some teeth, to give it more numbers, to give it a cohesiveness. I got that. But we had a very close community without that. But we couldn't. It's true. We weren't sitting around going, well, how do we get the word out about the genre, and how do we get more interest in it, which was the point initially of the Manhattan Association of Cabarets. I remember being very clear, now this was for me, that I wasn't interested in having reviewers come and review me at that point for a couple of years, because I didn't want to see in print the changes that I needed to make just in growth. I thought, let me grow into this and then I'll get reviewed. And then I did get reviewed, and the reviewers were out there. So the plus, I've got to choose my words here. The Manhattan Association of Cabarets is very, very helpful, but there is of course, a private club aspect of it. which for some people, if you're not included in that club, you can feel left out.
Yes.
That's what happens with clubs, you know, that I'm not suggesting that necessarily happened with me, or sometimes I felt it, whatever. So it just changes the dynamics of it. That being said, the MAC Association has become so active in not only promoting, but teaching, and this real cohesive thing happening, and the awards are great. And I mean, so there are many wonderful things about MAC. It was just different. It wasn't a better or worse. It was just very different. There is something to be said about not fighting for an award, not feeling if I don't get that award. So I came in, we were out there doing before awards. I was one of the first winners of the Bistro Award and the MAC Award. And I remember when I was called for them to tell me that Bistro Award, that I got it. That was Bob Harrington, who was a very famous reviewer, and he and I were very close friends. And he called me and said, "You've won this award." I went, "Oh, that's nice." That's how. The same with the MAC Award. You've been nominated for a MAC Award. And I went, "Oh, okay. All right." That was
differently back then as well, wasn't it, Marta? Wasn't there a committee that nominated you for the MAC Award?
I guess.
Instead of now, where people are submitting themselves?
Yes, there would have been. Yes, it was very different. But one thing, I wasn't involved in it at all. I was a phone call that I got this. I went, "Oh, okay." I remember with the MAC Award. So there I have the nomination. It's very new to me. And I had, at this point, I had the children. Okay, so let's just put in the equation. It's all perspective, right? I had these two little girls running around 20 months apart. And so everything was like, "Oh, really? Oh, okay. Is it something I have to dress up for? Oh, okay." The year that I was nominated, it was Nancy Lamotte, Karen Mason, Claiborne Carey, Nancy Timpanero, and myself. And I remember going to Don't Tell Mama, and I saw Nancy, and I was telling her once again that she should be recording, because her voice, that was what she was born to do, was to record. And we were talking about this nomination. I think we should just all sing together. That was also very Nancy, very effacing, not wanting to be, put herself in the front. And I thought, now, why would we do that? No, we need to sing separately. That year, it was Karen Mason that won it. The next year, and I don't remember who I was up against the next year, but that was when I won it. So it's Karen Mason and me. But this was all very new. It was at the Village Gate downtown on Bleecker Street. And it was, I remember that they served saltine crackers with little pieces of American cheese. That as it dried, it would kind of curl.
I know.
So I remember that. And that was the night also when I won, was when Jeff Harner won. And I remember running around town doing parties with Ruby Rims, who'd become a dear friend because I knew him before I got married. We'd played Provincetown together. Oh, well, he was in one room and I was in the lobby, but you know what I mean? It's all relative. We were close. But anyway, so that's what I think of. It's a very different world out there. It is a very nurturing community it's become so expensive. The reality with Cabaret, remember that $5 cover, $5 minimum?
Oh, yes, of course I do.
Huge. You could afford to go and see somebody. We weren't making money. Oh, but this is another big thing.
I have a question. I want to get to this from Leanne Borghesi. She wants to hear about what the first MAC Award was. What was the physical?
Oh, it was a dog tag. It was a dore tag. It was a dog tag.
And you still have it? Did they ever replace it?
No. I never wore it. It's hiding in the back somewhere. I have a vague idea of where it might be. And I took it to the jeweler to have my name put on it. And they put my name on Marta, S-A-N, next line, D-E-R-S. It was great. It's perfection.
That's right. Now, before our time runs out, I want to talk a little bit about ShowBroads. And, you know, the magic that you and Leanne bring together. I love the fact that you say that when you saw Leanne, that you thought you were seeing a younger version of yourself.
Yeah.
And yet your talent just meshes so well together. And of course, it's not just the two of you. You have this incredible team around you. I love the way that you've structured this show, and you've created a theater piece as opposed to getting up and singing a few songs for an hour. Can you talk a little bit about the process and how it all came together?
Yes. And just quickly, let me point out here, back in the day, we didn't do theme shows. Okay, which are very big, and you do composers and things. We didn't do that. That came in when KT Sullivan came in. Okay. She brought that because she was doing all the time, getting bored. Let me do something interesting here. And the other thing is we use piano. We didn't use piano, bass, drums, all of the instruments. So we weren't paying a big entourage. I'm just saying that was a big difference.
And one thing that I miss, if I can jump in here for a second, that I remember, this was Don't Tell Mama. It was all of the... It was one show a night, and it didn't feel to me like a factory.
Right.
It was that you went to see that star that night, and then you weren't pushed out onto the street the minute the show was over.
Right. But the money, the rents are so high and all that. And in order for it's business. And in order to get the money, make back the money for the cabaret, they got to turn them over. Yes. Having 3 shows a night, that changed it. It became a factory. So let's get to Leanne Borghesi, this stunning, amazing, talented Leanne. I had, in your show, you'd done one of your fabulous shows, and both she and I were on there. I'd gone to see one, but I'd been in one. We saw each other through your show. And then she was doing her solo show at the Triad, which is around the corner from me. And I thought, let me go. What could it hurt? I went in and I sat down, and I was transported by a woman who had this amazing voice, amazing presence, all of the things that I appreciate, and feathers and glitter. And I'm like a magpie. If it shakes, it feathers, it glitters, I'm on it like a cheap suit. Remember, I was raised Quaker. Can you imagine? Meeting for worship, silent meeting for worship? Oh, please. So anyway, I just saw myself in her. I saw the size of the voice, of the energy, of the talent, the broadness of what she did, and all the feathers, all the over the top that I love, have always loved. And so I waited, and afterwards we talked, and she said, why don't we do a show together? I think it was that night. If not, we had lunch the next day or soon after. Why don't we do a show? And I said, sure, why not? Leanne's whole concept, she and her team, which are her close friends from California or wherever when she went to college, their whole concept of theatrical cabaret, of doing the kinds of things where you're telling a story in a different way. You have a script, which you can have a script when you're doing a show, you do, but this is different than just patter. This is a real storyline. And on the style of what Charles Busch does so beautifully, that whole over the top stuff, which I relate to, my comedy, that's where my comedy comes from. So she brought her team in, and I very happily jumped on board and said, take me for a ride. And boy, did they ever. Nathan, who was the writer, so funny, so smart, so clever. And Nick, who directed us, and Dana P. Rowe, wonderful, wonderful musical director. He's a composer himself. And so we put together this crazy script that, for this old broad, learning these things is harder and harder, but boy, threw myself in, so grateful, love doing it, have so much fun doing it. It's the funniest thing in the world. And she's a great foil for me.
And I hope to God that we see you on the board sooner rather than later. I can't believe this, but we really are at the end of our show. But before we end, I want to say a few things. First of all, everybody that is here, Warren Shine is here, Chris Artur is here, a new friend, Gregory Johnson, Sandra Rabin-Tyndall, who is my aunt, Rini Katz, Leanne Borghesi, Glenn Charlo, who has been posting all the information here, Alan Choi from San Francisco, Kathleen Hassett-Hochberg. All of you, thank you for being here. Now, as I said at the beginning of the program, we want to raise money for the Bowery Mission. So all of you who are watching, if you can make any type of a donation, please do. Why did you choose this charity, Marta?
Because the Bowery Mission is really like Guys and Dolls. That's that whole philosophy. Mm-hmm. And it's always taken care of the downtrodden. It's on the Bowery, which is now chic and fabulous. Mm-hmm. It was never chic and fabulous. For anybody who remembers back in the day, they had the Medium there. This is below Houston Street and on the Bowery. And they had the Medium there that the drunks, the sad sacks, the downtrodden would stand in the Medium and just beg, you know, for money, anybody going by. They have taken care of, since the late 1800s, they have taken care of the people, that whole area, which was all the flop houses, because that's where it was all industrial. And the one-night rooms, you know, for a quarter, and all of that. That's faded. Well, that's really gone by the wayside. There's still many people who use it and need it, but that area was like the center.
Especially now, we need them.
And we need them now more than ever. And they're so generous. And so I've always been giving to them. I love them.
Well, Marta, I want to thank you again. Thank you all for being here. If you enjoyed the show, everyone, please go to my website, richardskipper.com. Put your thoughts about the show today. That helps to sell me in other markets. And we want to do more of these. At least I do. And thank you for taking the time with us. I want to remind everyone that on Monday night at 5 o'clock, I'm going to have Sue Mitsuki and David Sabella join me again. This is part 2 of our previous interview. And we're going to be talking about the business of cabaret, the things that a lot of people take for granted. It amazes me how many times somebody will call me up and they've invested in every aspect of the show except publicity, except taking care of this aspect. It's a business, and we're going to be discussing that. So please join us on Monday. And this is to talk about their new book, So You Want to Sing Cabaret. And if you want to hear great cabaret, Marta Sanders. I wanted to show 2 clips today, and unfortunately we didn't get them here in time because they need to be condensed in this program. But you can go to YouTube and put in Marta Sanders. And there's a lot there, and I've been enjoying it, as I've enjoyed you for years. I love, love, love you. I want to do an afternoon or an evening with you and Leanne together.
Great.
I would love to do that.
Fun. Perfect.
I love to Gordon. And everybody, I end every show by telling everybody to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. I want you to go to your Facebook page, and you too, Marta. I want you to go to your Facebook page, look up your 8th friend, and give them a call just to say, I'm thinking of you today. And let me know how it goes. Keep thinking those good thoughts and make it a greater day. I love you, Marta.
Love you too, Richard. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.